Today on AMC Movie Talk, John and the panel discuss X-Men sequel possibilities, Dumb and Dumber T.O. We'll take your questions from the mailbag, and a whole bunch more. So sit tight, AMC Movie Talk starts right now.
Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. This is episode number 17, originally recorded on Thursday, September the 27th, 2012, at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. Thanks a lot for joining us. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. As always, I'm your host. My name is John Campia. I'm the senior editor over here at AMC Movie News. Joining me for this episode, sitting to my immediate right, she is, I'm teasing her that she's wearing her raspberry beret, but I've been corrected that it is indeed not a beret. Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, how you doing?
Thank you. Doing well, thanks.
Sitting next to Amy Rose, she's, of course, senior editor of Rotten Tomatoes and a film critic for CNN. Miss Gray Drake.
Hello! Ow! I come unprepared without beret, but I'm a full supporter of your beret.
But you both have pink heads.
What?
And you both have pink heads.
That's right.
We planned this.
Full support of color.
Sitting on the back table there, she's keeping an eye on the chat board as always. She's Miss Candon Jackson. Candon.
Good morning.
And of course, once again, the Snuffleupagus appears sitting over behind the production desk, Mr. Denizen. Dennis?
Ow!
Hello, everyone.
Yay! Can I be Alice? I'll just leave right now.
Hey, folks, listen, if you are watching this on YouTube right now, you can watch us live every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Los Angeles time. That's 2 p.m. New York time at the following address, www.ustream.tv/channel/AMC-theaters. You'll never remember that, but that's why we have it below us right now. And listen, before we get rolling in our news flash, I wanted to mention something. Our next show, which is on Monday, it's a very special episode. We actually have a special guest coming in to join us, Mr. Ethan Hawke.
Nice.
The actor is going to be in here joining us on AMC Movie Talk, and we're going to talk a whole bunch about his upcoming horror film, Sinister, which looks rather creepy. So make sure you join us for that. Once again, that is Monday, October the 1st. Ethan Hawke will be in here at AMC Movie Talk. With that being said, we're going to start off this episode the way we do with every episode, catching you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news with our news flash. It was reported some time ago that producer Adi Shankar was putting together a movie that would be the female version of The Expendables.
Yes.
Well, it appears the yet untitled film has its first official cast member, former MMA superstar and star of the movie Haywire, Gina Carano.
Boom!
Love her.
When asked about the casting, Shankar said, "I don't know how I'm supposed to do a movie that's supposed to be the female version of The Expendables without Gina Carano in it. It would be like making Twix without caramel or Jamba Juice without Jamba."
And by the way, the film will be sponsored by Jamba Juice and Twix.
Actor Tom Hardy has landed the lead role in the upcoming film Everest, based on the book Path to Glory. Hardy is best known for his work in films like The Dark Knight Rises as the villain Bane, Warrior, Lawless, and Bronson. The story of Everest is said to be about a man who may have changed history but remains anonymous. No word yet on production or release dates.
This is great news because let's give Tom Hardy another movie an opportunity where no one can understand him. This time, he's just out of breath.
Len Wiseman, who directed the Underworld films as well as the recent Total Recall remake and the fourth Die Hard film Live Free or Die Hard, has just signed on to direct the upcoming Universal relaunch of The Mummy. The film is not a continuation or remake of the Brendan Fraser Mummy films, but rather a reintroduction to the classic Universal monster character. The project is being produced by Alex Kurtzman and Roberta Orci, the creative writing team behind Star Trek, Cowboys and Aliens, and several of J.J. Abrams' TV shows.
Jake Gyllenhaal is currently appearing in AMC theaters in his new film End of Watch and has reportedly just signed on for his next project. Variety reports that Gyllenhaal is in talks to join the film Prisoners, along with Hugh Jackman and Academy Award winner Melissa Leo. The story revolves around a small-town carpenter named Keller, played by Jackman, whose young daughter and her best friend are kidnapped. After the cops fail to find them, Keller takes the law into his own hands, but in the process runs up against Detective Loki, not to be confused with Avengers, and hotshot cop with confidence to burn, assigned to the case. Production is set to begin in early 2013 with an ambitious fall 2013 release date targeted.
It should be illegal that film studios describe their films with the term "hotshot cop." Anyway,
Yeah,
as
it's
some of you
2012,
may,
you guys.
as some of you may know, Steven Spielberg is gearing up for his next project, Robopocalypse, a story set in the near future where a super intelligent AI called Arcos becomes self-aware and launches a campaign to eliminate humanity. It was earlier announced that Thor's Chris Hemsworth has signed on to star in the film, and is now being reported that Anne Hathaway is in talks to join the project. Robopocalypse is set to go into production in early 2013 with an April 25th, 2014 release date.
Hopefully she'll put on more weight, because this whole Les Mis body shape is freaking me out.
Remember the video game Spy Hunter?
Of course.
Well, they've been trying for years now to get a motion picture off the ground. At one point, Universal had the rights and tentatively had the likes of John Woo and Paul W.S. Anderson to direct, with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, your favorite, to star. Now Warner Brothers has the rights and has just attached director Ruben Fleischer to helm the project. Fleischer previously directed the popular Zombieland, the not as popular 30 Minutes or Less, and the upcoming Gangster Squad. No word yet on production dates.
Actress Jamie Alexander, who plays the warrior Sif in Thor and the upcoming sequel, Thor: The Dark World, tweeted that she has sustained a pretty horrible injury while shooting the new Thor film. Thankfully, she tweets that she is recovering and anticipates physio starting soon and being back on set just as soon.
Got too close to the hammer.
At a recent comedy festival in Montreal, Patrick Stewart was directly asked by a fan if he would ever return to the X-Men franchise, in which he initially replied, "I think there is always a possibility." Ever a possibility. And then later, "Yes, I'll be reprising." We're not sure if he was serious or not, and if he was talking about an appearance in another X-Men prequel or in a legitimate X-Men 4. We'll let you know as more details become available.
It's been a rough road for Dumb and Dumber, with Jim Carrey joining, leaving, rejoining, re-leaving, and rejoining yet again, but it looks like everything is moving forward for Dumb and Dumber sequel, known officially as Dumb and Dumber 2. That's 2 as in T-O.
So good.
Bobby Farley took to his Twitter account and announced that the title to the world this week. Jeff Daniels, who is returning with Carrey, earlier reported that they are looking to start shooting in spring of 2013. And that is your news flash. So listen, we're going to get rolling here. We got a couple things that I want to talk about. And folks, if you are watching us live, feel free to jump into the chat board. You can see right beside the live streaming video. And Candon back there is keeping track of everything you guys are talking about. If you got a question or a topic you'd like us to bring up at the end of the show, let her know now. She'll keep track of them and bring them up later.
Or pictures you want to send.
Or
whatever.
Pictures you want to send.
Anything.
Gray always wants pictures.
I'm very visual. Very visual person.
No,
I don't know if that's a good idea.
It always is.
All right, let's bring this up. Okay, as we mentioned in the news flash, at this huge comedy festival in Montreal, probably it's the biggest comedy festival in the world.
Yes, where Patrick Stewart was.
I don't understand
at a comedy festival.
But speaking of Patrick Stewart,
I'm
just for a
hilarious.
second, did you see that little Funny or Die video sketch that he did as a ticket scalper at the Olympics?
Oh,
No.
God, no. That's awesome.
Dennis, you saw
Yeah,
that.
I saw that.
You
I
know
posted
what?
on Facebook.
Oh, okay, great.
No,
There-
he's
it's-
so talented. He can do anything.
It's amazing. He plays. He's like a bum, but he's called. What was his name in the
He's
skit?
like a bum.
I forgot, but it had like that
like
Adam
Sammy
Locke.
the Scalper or something.
Yeah, but they had like the little girl from Game of Thrones, Maisie Williams was
as
in
his
it.
little
Aria?
as a
Yeah,
little
Aria.
Cockney
Yeah,
helper.
Aria.
Say,
Yeah.
what tickets we got? And like she sound like that. And so he's going around. He's a ticket scalper, right? So he's talking about all the tricks of the trade, scalping tickets.
That's
And then
awesome.
he runs into Simon Pegg, playing Simon
Like you do.
Pegg,
Perfect.
and he's trying to scalp tickets to him. Right? He goes, "Wait a minute, are you famous stage and screen actor Patrick Stewart simply shamelessly taking advantage of your acting talents and the Olympics to gain a few extra bucks?" He's like, "No." Like, all right then. Anyway, you look it up. Look it up. It's very, very
Unchecked.
funny.
What I imagine is that people were at this comedy festival, right? And it was just like, TBD at 3:00 p.m. And then just all of a sudden on stage, like Patrick Stewart walks out. It's just like, I'm just working some stuff out. I was hoping I could join you, in full Star Trek.
In full Star Trek.
Yes. Always go full Star Trek.
All right.
Always.
So here's the big thing that's got everybody talking. So during a Q&A, somebody asks him, "Hey, will you ever return as Professor Charles Xavier?" And at first, as Amy Rose said, he kind of coyly said, "I think there's every possibility." But then later he said, "Yes, I'm going to reprise."
What a tease.
Yeah, I thought you were going to
What
say,
a
what a
tease.
dick.
I would never say that to Patrick Stewart because he will hunt me down.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart, he's pretty awesome.
With just a look.
Yeah, right? Totally.
So that
This
is interesting. Now,
mine.
was he sitting? Now, remember, this wasn't an official studio news release. This is just him talking off the cuff.
Right.
So here's the question. We've got a couple of X-Men franchises running. Of course, we've got the looking fabulous The Wolverine coming out. You guys saw, we talked about the last episode you guys were in. Did you see the first pictures?
Yeah.
Yes, I did see those pictures, and I have never forgotten an inch of them in the past week. This has made the last week of September truly memorable.
Look, I'll say I am a being a married guy. I am a sternly, very comfortable heterosexual male.
Stern heterosexual.
Stern, comfortable heterosexual male. I would rub sweet oil on those abs. For hours.
bless you.
Might have taken it
God
too
bless
far,
you.
not sure.
I mean, come on. I mean, really, he looked ridiculously good. But
Yeah.
we've got the
How much
Wolverine
is
running.
airbrush?
We've
I
know.
also got
Photoshop. It has to be.
we've also got the X-Men First Class franchise running. We know
Yes,
there's a
which is
sequel coming out,
spectacular.
to X-Men, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So let's say for a second, for argument's sake, let's assume that Patrick Stewart's being serious and he says, yes, I'm going to be reprising Professor Charles Xavier. Opens up a couple possibilities. Does he make a cameo in The Wolverine? Kind of asks himself. Does he make a cameo in a X-Men First Class sequel, prequel to the X-Men, as kind of a in the future Charles Xavier? Or could we be looking at the possibility of a legitimate X-Men 4? Let's ask two questions here. What do you think it could be, and what would you want it to be? Great, let's start with you.
I would be genuinely excited to see James McAvoy and what's his name we've been talking about?
Stewart.
Yeah, that guy. I would
What's
be
his
really, I'd be really excited to see them interacting because I thought X-Men First Class is the only X-Men that we should be paying attention
Absolutely.
to.
Right.
Like, I don't think X-Men 4 should go forward. I don't think that should be a thing. I think we should stick with the reboot and go that direction just because they got it so right. So right in their Panama hats and their 60s high-waisted pants. I just loved that movie. Not only for the fashion, but for the flying and the whatever. And so I'd love to see the two of them, and I'd like for the next movie to get really start digging more into Professor X's mind powers. I'd really like to see that, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there for there to be. I mean, without knowing the comic books, that's where my knowledge is really lacking. I would love, just as a viewer who loves the movies, to come into it and see, some time play and some, which is like, foreplay, but with more clocks. And I'd like to see that happen. I'd love for him to be a part of that one. Let's keep going with the prequel reboot stuff because that was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but I'm an optimist forever, and I hope that this next Wolverine, abs aplenty, is going to be, it's going to be better than the first. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So if he shows up, he classes up the joint wherever he goes.
I feel the same. I kind of feel like, thank you, John. I kind of feel like the first 3 X-Men should be kind of forgotten about, like the prequel Star Wars. I just want to believe they didn't
weren't that
happen.
bad, though.
They weren't that bad, but the original doesn't even come close. That's how I feel about X-Men, what I feel about X-Men First Class. It was better in every way, acting, everything, cinematography, it was so good. I feel like what we might see Stewart in is maybe a cameo type thing, maybe similar to what like Nimoy did in Star Trek, where it's just like, and everyone, like all the big fans are really excited about it, but James McAvoy did such a good job, and based off the success that, Fox did experience with First Class, I feel like they are going to continue with that. And it might be kind of a cameo type role to like really get the diehard fans stoked. Or maybe an in the future kind of thing, but I don't think it would just be him again.
Put the original X-Men. I feel like I need to stand up for them because those
Please,
first
before
movies,
I do.
those movies were good.
Those movies were better than good.
the third
people
one was
forget.
a little.
No, the third one.
The third one's
one was
first one I loved.
the third
Yeah.
one clearly the weakest of the bunch. Very, it is weak.
Yeah.
I think number 2 is still, aside from Avengers, my favorite comic book film of all time.
Wow.
And
Nice.
people
Big words.
forget the first Bryan Singer X-Men single-handedly completely resurrected the superhero genre. The superhero genre was dead and buried under the tombstone of Batman and Robin, with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
God help us.
The comic book franchise,
Oh my God.
comic book films were dead. The whole genre was dead. I mean,
You just drained my body of electrolytes by bringing that up. Oy.
I think Blade kind of made people go, oh, yeah, wait a minute, there are these comic book things. But then X-Men came along and legitimized comic book movies. The first 2 X-Men, I think, are brilliant, and I would take them any day over X-Men First Class.
Really?
That being said,
Wow. That's shocking.
I
shocking.
do love X-Men First Class. I thought it was...
You better.
I thought it was a triumph. I thought it was wonderfully done. I really, really do. I mean, it had some weaknesses. I didn't like the way they dealt with the kids in it. Look, if you had edited out all the kids in X-Men First Class,
It would have been 25 minutes.
and had just James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender and focused the movie on them hunting after Sebastian Shaw.
How
Shaw
dare
was
you
so
speak?
good,
How
too.
dare you speak ill of Lenny Kravitz's daughter? How dare you, sir?
And she was terrible.
Oh my God.
She was bad.
What?
She was bad in this film.
don't-
She's
I'm not
pretty,
saying
though.
she's not very talented.
I don't remember
She
her
is very
being
talented,
bad.
but I think in
Maybe
this
I was
film,
distracted by the wings.
maybe.
Granted, I still own the first 3, all right? X-Men is my favorite comic book franchise of all time. So I'm very, very picky. Let's put it that way. X-Men First Class, I think, brought it to a whole other level. So kind of forget about it. Last Stand, it was just embarrassing. But the first one was awesome. I still watch them. I still love them. Raven's my favorite character ever. But X-Men First Class, I think, just showed it the way it was supposed to be and way less cheeseball.
But here's why I would prefer to see an X-Men 4 as opposed to an X-Men First Class Part 2, which I am
Because you
very,
like those movies
which
better.
I'm very much looking forward to.
Which is odd.
Well, no, I prefer 2 of them better. I certainly prefer X-Men First Class over X-Men, whatever the third
Last
one was
Stand.
called, Last Stand.
Good.
I definitely prefer, like, by miles,
Should have been called Last
But
Brain
I
Cell.
have a preconceived, not dislike, but a little bit of an aversion to prequels in general.
Okay.
Like the first, which is why I was
'Cause
so
you hate
surprised. Because I hate history. I like to rewrite history, but I was. That's part of the reason
Interesting.
why I was so pleasantly surprised with X-Men First Class, with how great it was. But prequels, you're just, by nature, you are limited with what you can do and where you can go. You can't have Charles Xavier die. You can't have, because we know, because they have said these X-Men films are completely in timeline with the other X-Men films. They've already botched that up a little bit with the continuity and the timeline a bit. But it kind of limits you. Look, if we see Charles Xavier in a life-threatening situation in the next prequel, we know he's not going to die. We know he's not going to lose his arm. We know he's like, and so I have a little bit of an aversion to prequels.
I like the setup.
I think that's a great point, but I don't entirely agree because that to me is just like throwing off the gloves, challenging the screenwriters to do something that, despite all of that, is still interesting. And so, especially in the way that they make movies today, guess what's going to happen?
Right.
They can make anything that they want happen. There's a lot of possibility in the story itself to kind of, if anything veers from the timeline, to get it back there. And by the time that they've made maybe the second or third in the prequel series, in the reboot series, they're going to be rebooting it again.
Yes.
So basically, we're seeing like Cavemen X-Men, and it's like a pre-prequel. You know what I mean? They're just going to keep rebooting
And the
things.
relationship between, Professor X and Magneto and like the evolution of it was told so much better in this one. Like they didn't really set that up. Like they were, allies. Like they were friends, and you watch the evolution of them, and it's still from a place of respect. Even though they become enemies, it's still from a place of respect.
Right.
And I think that was showed a lot stronger. They're like some of my favorite duos who were,
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. So they told that a little better. But I mean, I can see what you said about the setup.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I loved X-Men First
Yeah.
Class. I am excited about the sequel to it. I
Yeah.
am. I just think you can clean up and fix the mess of X-Men 3 with a legitimate X-Men 4.
I would still see that and be
don't
excited
think-
by it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but
It's going to happen 4 or 5 more times in the next 25 years because this is all that we want to see movies about.
And every origin of every character.
And then eventually they're going to kill all the X-Men and create new ones so they can sell new toys,
AKA
a la
Transformers.
And they'll be gay.
Good
in a different
analogy.
universe.
They'll be gay.
So.
They'll be gay X-Men.
All right, let's move on
be
to the next
fab
topic
you
here.
men.
By the way, jump into the comments section or in the live chat. Let us know what your thoughts are. Would you prefer to see an X-Men 4 or more prequels? Let us know what you guys think.
The first gay X-Man, Gambit.
Whoa, girl.
Instead of throwing playing
Actually,
cards,
who is
he
the
throws
first,
Laboutons.
Who is the first gay X-Men? They just announced who the first gay X-Men was.
Seems to be a
Dennis,
theme.
do you remember?
No.
I remember Marvel's first gay superhero was
I don't know
from
what-
Alpha
I don't know
Flight.
anymore.
Yeah.
It was
North Star.
North
Green
Star.
Man.
Right. North Star is the first gay, but I'm pretty sure they just announced that one of the X-Men was. I can't remember.
Good.
Definitely not going to be Gambit.
No,
No.
it's not Gambit. But they had North Star
Listen, though.
and
Taylor
somebody else. I can't remember who that
He's
was now.
from Baton Rouge, and when you first meet someone from Louisiana, you can never tell.
All right, let's
They're
move on to
charming.
item number 2 here. With all the drama that's been going on, it's on again, it's off again, it's on again, it's off again. It appears that the sequel to the true sequel to Dumb and Dumber, not to be confused with that Dumb and Dumber when Harry met Lloyd.
That was dumb.
Nonsense.
Oh.
That was
A prequel.
awful. A prequel.
Boom.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
was
you
so
know-
bad I wouldn't even see it
And
for free.
I was kind of interested
That's
in when
bad.
it was first came out because I remember thinking, if you're gonna do a prequel and you have the younger version of Harry and Lloyd, you cast this perfectly.
Right.
They
Yeah.
look
They
like
did.
Harry and Lloyd.
did.
And
but
that's
it was
it.
so bad. It was so bad. But anyway, so now we've got Dumb and Dumber, the sequel coming, Dumb and Dumber 2, T-O.
That title makes me want to throw rocks at someone's head.
Really?
Why is that a good title?
I love the title.
You do?
I do.
I do
Why
too.
is that-
'Cause
why
it's
is-
so dumb? It's
It
perfect.
fits with Dumb and
Yeah.
Dumber.
Oh my god.
Like if Harry and Lloyd, to me, it's like if Harry and Lloyd were going to name this film, this is what it would be named.
Would you prefer it to be like a 2 spelled wrong or something? Like, what are you thinking?
I wish that it had been like Dumb and Dumber your, like Y-O-U-R, like your nuts, or so, you know what I mean, like wrong, using like not correct something. I feel like they could have done more with this. I feel like they're phoning it in. This is a bad sign. This movie's gonna be terrible.
No, Gray, no.
By the way,
on the title
Be
of
a
the
believer.
film.
I'm done. I'm done with these titles. Like where it's like Independence Day. What was that title, John?
ID.
Forever.
No,
ID Forever.
Part 1 and ID Forever Part 2.
I mean,
Come on,
I
Hollywood.
agree.
But
I agree
this
there.
is
I agree
not
there.
Day is not going to last forever. It's a one-time deal.
It is a day.
It is
you
a
guys.
day.
It is a day.
day.
No,
And
but
when you're at work building a brick wall, that feels like forever, but
like
it's
forever.
not. And neither is the alien
I
invasion.
think though this is not ID Forever Part 1. I think this is a
No.
clever, appropriate
This is
title.
awesome.
Like I said, I think if Harry and Lloyd were going to name it, maybe Dumb and Dumber TOO is what they would name. But I think it's very close to what Harry and Lloyd themselves. I think this is in the spirit of Dumb
So
and
is
Dumber.
it Dumb and Dumber T.O.?
Yes.
Yes.
Dumb and Dumber
Okay.
2.
All right, I like that better.
Okay, good.
What did you think it was?
T.O.O.
Oh,
Oh.
see?
I thought it was 2 O's.
No, it's 1 O.
T.O..
Dumb and Dumber
Oh.
2.
Dumb and okay, all right,
Yeah.
that has won me back a little bit. But are they?
Success.
I have lost track of what they are doing with this movie, and
Okay.
are they bringing everyone back from the orig?
Well, I don't know if they're bringing.
two,
I
at
mean,
least.
Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey, which are
Right.
the
That's
most
it.
important
Yeah.
ones.
Amazing, and that's what made that movie hilarious in the mid-90s.
I'd love Lauren Holly to come back too.
Yeah.
She's
It would
so
be interesting.
rad.
But from what I understand, here's what the story of it is that it's now 20 years later, and they
That's
have to
kind.
go.
How old are they?
That's real
Yeah.
kind.
They have to go on a road trip to try to. Apparently, they find out one of them has a son, and they have to go on a road trip
That's pretty
to
awesome.
find their child.
Okay, all right. The tide of my opinion has turned.
Good.
Okay, and
Those
Dennis,
two
I wanted
together.
to ask you this because you and I have this discussion a lot.
Snuffleupagus,
Now-
listen up.
Clearly, the story of the narrative, if you will, of the original Dumb and
The
Dumber
narrative.
does not require a sequel. Clearly, we're not left on a cliffhanger. We need to know what happens next to
Yeah.
properly bring this story to conclusion.
All questions answered
That
from
being
Dumb and Dumber.
said, are you looking forward to this? Do you want a Dumb and Dumber 2? I'm
Snuffy?
curious.
I don't think they needed
Can I
one,
use
but
that?
I'm looking forward to one, especially if Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels are coming back. But I am still pissed that in the director's cut of Dumb and Dumber, they cut out my favorite scene in it.
Which
What?
was?
You're not supposed to cut things
Where
out.
where they're going up the hill on the motorcycle,
Yes.
and he tells him to. He's like, "Oh, I need to go pee," and he's like, "Oh,
Just go,
go,
man."
man, just go." And he's like,
they
and they
cut
wait a
that
few
out?
seconds, and then he goes,
Why?
"Oh, that's kind of warm."
Who
Why
did,
would
who
they
did that
cut that?
offend?
Sis,
With
why do
everything
directors-
else in there.
Then they freeze together, yeah?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
do
And
director's
they, like,
cuts
fix 'em up.
take scenes out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's-
That doesn't
Yeah.
make
What's
sense.
supposed to
That's
happen.
the
Add more
dumbest
goodness.
and dumberest thing
When
I've
you
ever
said
heard.
they cut out your
T.O.
favorite scene, I was about to get mad because my favorite scene in the film is Jeff Daniels with the diarrhea in the bathroom.
It would be,
your
John.
Especially
it
when,
would
he,
be.
especially when he finds out when she yells in, "Oh, and don't use a toilet; it doesn't work."
Listen,
I'm
I
like,
know-
"Ah!"
I know that we're
No,
sharing.
that's still in there.
I know
Yeah,
that we're
good.
sharing our opinions, but you guys are wrong. The best scene in that movie is when they are snowball fighting
Oh, okay, that's pretty good.
and
Beats her down.
he beans Lauren Holly in
That's
the
pretty good.
face. And I mean, all these, it's 20 years later and
Yeah.
I'm still laughing
Our
at
pets'
that.
heads are falling off. There's so many good lines. Like, it's a great movie. I'm
It's-
excited.
It's you know what, I'm gonna admit something. To me, it's a little bit like Inglourious Bastards. I didn't even like Inglourious Bastards was a film that I gave a negative review to when I first watched it. I didn't like that film at all.
You liked it more?
And then I watched it a second time and I thought, what the hell is my problem?
I love
How did I
Inglourious
not?
Bastards.
How did I not like this movie the first time? Like,
Now, I imagine you ask yourself that question a lot.
You'd be surprised, or maybe not. But for Dumb and Dumber, for me, it was kind of the same thing. I remember the first time I saw Dumb and Dumber because everybody, I was one of the last guys to
It was
watch
hyped up.
Everybody loved it, and I watched them like, this isn't that funny.
Oh, yeah.
And then I watched it a second time, and I'm like, okay, it's a little funnier than I remember it. Now I watch it like once a year, and I laugh harder and harder every time. I love
Yes.
You Man. I Love You Man is another comedy like that
love
for me.
that movie.
Yeah.
The first time I watched him like, yeah, it's all right. And now, maybe every 4 weeks, we put it on and
There's
watch
Something
it.
About Mary was the same thing for me.
Ah.
I
Right.
saw that last. Like, everyone's like, I knew all the jokes already. And I saw it, I was like, kind of lackluster. And then I watched it again. I was like, this movie's brilliant.
Optimist in me says, Opti Prime in me says, that
Well played.
after protecting the Allspark, that
Colon.
that happens because it's like movies are so subjective and it's what frame of mind you're in at the moment,
True.
and we
Yeah.
really do need to see things twice, different times to average out the balance of what we really think.
Expectations are the root of most evils.
That was deep. And pessimist.
I went there, girl.
You just described my intimacy life. So anyway,
Pessimist me says that movies seem better in retrospect because we've had to sit through all the crap that came after it. And movies are getting progressively worse as we age and get so far away from that magical time when you're like 13 that
We
movies
are
really
getting
mean
deep, aren't
something.
we?
It's interesting because I think like 40-Year-Old Virgin was that for me. Like I liked it when it came out, but now I'm like, you know, like my boyfriend tries to talk to me while it's on television. I'm like, shut your face, shut up, shut up, shut your mouth. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. So
yeah, that was like that for me. I remember. Well, I mean, to me, I think I've said this on the show. To me, the 40-Year-Old Virgin is the best comedy of the past 10, 15, 20 years. I think because it's smart and funny and
Charming, yeah.
charming and all that kind of stuff.
Elizabeth
This is going to
Banks.
be unpopular.
oh, she's so good.
Oh, Elizabeth.
So good in that
Elizabeth
movie.
Banks is the bomb, man.
She
In
is.
So
Pitch
good.
In
She
Pitch
was
Perfect,
amazing in Pitch Perfect.
She
She's in Pitch
steals it.
Perfect?
Yes.
Yeah, she is.
The
and she steals it.
commentator. It's
didn't realize that.
hilarious.
Classic commentator in like a judging kind of movie. You know, it's like all the people in Christopher Guest movies have done it well, and now it's John Michael Higgins and Elizabeth Banks.
I loved Pitch
them.
Perfect. I thought that was hilarious.
Go see it if
Yeah.
you like
Let me
Glee.
say something kind of unpopular here.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Getting
Get
back to our
ready to
topic here,
hate.
Dumb and Dumber 2.
Such a negative.
I think this is a bad idea.
What, Dumb and Dumber 2,
Dumb and
T.O.?
2, yeah. Not the title. I think it's a very clever title. And don't get me wrong, I'll
take
be
it
in
back.
theaters when it comes out. But here's why I think it's a bad idea. I
I
have
don't
this
think it's a
debate,
great idea,
Yeah,
for
I have this
sure.
debate with some people sometimes that there are films that their narratives don't require a sequel. But I want to revisit these characters again. I want to hang out
Yeah.
with these guys again.
And
you
who's
know?
going to play the son? That could
Now,
be really funny.
But talking about Dumb and Dumber, part of the thing that made it so funny was the amount of uniqueness and the narrowness of its focus. In other words, these are one-note guys.
Right.
These characters, they're one-note guys, and they hit that note to perfection and made us laugh our asses off. I have a fear that if you're going to be true to Dumb and Dumber and give the audience what they want, it's going to be more of that one note, and I think it is lost it's potency. I don't know that we'll laugh the same way that we did when it's just the same one-note kind of stuff.
Their chemistry together is so good, though.
It is.
It's so good.
Well, you have expressed my concern with every kind of reboot, sequel, revisiting that we do in every movie. Like I brought up Independence Day. That's why I keep saying it's like we have to let creative, fresh, new screenwriters attack these things, because otherwise it's going to be snoozeville and you're going to want to kill someone after watching it, because it's there. If you want to spend more time with these people, and you want to see them, the same people, in new situations, which is the reason that the new Batman trilogy is great, because there's enough time between each one, literally in the world of Batman, that Batman is in a new situation, and so he's the same dude, but he's dealing with some different stuff, and it's compelling in an entirely new way. 'Cause it's just so well written, and so methinks Dumb and Dumber 2 is not going to get the screenwriter treatment that say Christopher Nolan gave Batman.
Wow.
And so it's
field.
it's probably going to be a train wreck, and it's probably going to be a new generation of 12-year-olds who don't know any better that are going to be like, this is the best movie ever, when in reality, I mean, Dude, Where's My Car might as well have been the sequel to Dumb and Dumber.
Well, what do you feel about Anchorman 2 then? Because I this same kind of thing. So many years later, same cast of characters. Like, are you excited about it? Are you worried about it?
Here's why I'm psychotically excited
I
about
am
Anchorman
too.
2.
I'm thrilled.
Make me enthusiastic.
As opposed to, like, Harry and Lloyd, they are the exact same guy. I mean, they're one has long hair, one has short, but they
haven't evolved at all.
But it's not that Harry is still Harry and Lloyd is still Lloyd. Harry and Lloyd are the same guy. They act exactly the same. They have the exact same intelligence. They speak exactly the same. They do exactly the same stuff. They are one character split into two so they can play off each other. With a show like or a film like Anchorman,
so many different personalities.
Brick, Fontana.
I'm so excited.
I mean,
I love Lamp.
These guys were. I mean, like
I pooped a trident.
One of the funniest parts of that movie, though, I can't remember if it was in the credits
Candle?
part where Brick is doing the weather. Brick's doing the weather, and then Ron yells over to him, "Hey, are you still doing your celebrity golf tournament this year?" No, we had too many people die last time. And like that's just the humor. And so you have these very different mix of characters. It is a single note kind of humor, but it's different types of characters. And so because of that, I'm really excited. With Harry and Lloyd, my fear is, and let's be honest, I'm going to be there first day. The first press screening I get invited to for Dumb and Dumber 2, I'm there with bells on, despite my concern.
Just
my concern is just
of
the
a fan
bells.
of the original.
Is that it's just they're the same character. They're going to be saying and doing just the exact same stuff. That's what I'm worried about, but who knows?
I wonder what kind of cameos are going to be in Anchorman 2. There are so many good ones in the first one.
I'm so excited. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic about that for the same reasons, because the magic of Anchorman was like, it's like, how do you take a rainbow and put it in your mouth? Such as Anchorman. Like, it's like this random magic that was captured, and I'm so desperate for them to recapture it. But
too.
However many times they're able to do that in Hollywood, I could count on like
they have taken
one
their
hand.
time. I'll
And
give
Will
them that.
Ferrell needs another good, because I loved him in Step Brothers and Anchorman and Old School and all these classics in the last 3 maybe. Missed.
Dude, it's law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
It's like you've been doing this and you've been really super successful for a long time because you're a talented human being and we're thankful for what you've done for us. But you need to move. You need to Ben Affleck this and start moving into directing, bro. Like, I think Will Ferrell, and also I think Will Ferrell needs a genre switch, because every time he's been in something quasi-serious, he's great.
Well, I've said the same about Adam Sandler forever. I think his comedy's done.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's genius. I mean, did you see Rain Over Me?
No.
Oh my goodness, the one he did with Elijah for? Where he plays like a guy who lost his family in the 9/11 attacks, and he's like, it's a dead serious. I was outraged he didn't get an Oscar nomination for that. See, you're right. Sorry, it was Don Cheadle.
Jim Carrey in The Majestic, when he went serious, stuff like that. I think is a really good move when it's like a one-dimensional character, like you're saying.
Well, listen, we're going off on a massive rabbit trail here, and that's my fault. We need to. We're going to get to the mailbag here in just a second, but before we do, listen. Opening up this weekend in AMC theaters everywhere is the highly anticipated, and I'm going to tell you right now, this movie is freaking amazing.
So dope.
Looper.
Fresh on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
It's like
Certified
94
fresh.
or
Yeah.
93, something
Currently, it's 92% certified fresh. Huge.
like that. It's an amazing film. Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the best child performance I have ever seen in a film ever by a kid that young, a young actor by the name of Pierce Gagnon. Watch this film. Anyway, just yesterday, our very own Roth Cornett, who's normally a co-host on the show, she had a chance to go down to Beverly Hills, sit down, and talk with the star of Looper, Mr. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Here, check out their conversation.
People are understandably talking a lot about the physical transformation in the film that you underwent in order to be the younger version of Bruce Willis. And it's remarkable, the vocal cadence and the mannerisms. But I see kind of a larger transformation in that I feel like in the lion's share of your performances, there's this inherent kindness that comes through. And it's in Looper, but this is a man that's drowning in violence. So was that liberating to tap into? Was that uncomfortable?
Well, you're right, and thanks. He's not, the guy playing Looper isn't exactly a hero, especially at the beginning of the movie. He's sort of a lost soul and just doing what he can to keep what's his and make some money, even though he's killing people for a living. And it's not a pleasant headspace to spend time in, but that's where you go. That's the intriguing and that's the challenge. That's the intriguing challenge of playing a character that's really different from yourself. And that's what I love about acting most, is just playing characters that are nothing like me.
Something that I talked to Ryan Johnson about was that this is a really violent movie that is basically about the cyclical nature of violence. So,
well put.
For you, does that create any kind of internal conflict, or as an actor, or no? Or
well, sure. I think that movies are the most popular form of storytelling right now, and I think it's kind of the job of stories to address some of the worst things that are going on in the world. Right. And it's true that a lot of Hollywood movies kind of glamorize violence and just use it gratuitously to titillate an audience. And I don't think Looper does that. Looper is a movie that's about violence. It's about, like you said, the cyclical nature of violence and how violence perpetuates more violence. And the question of, well, can you stop violence with further violence? Or does that just create an endless cycle? And these are kind of hard questions, and I really admire a movie that can tackle those hard questions, but still in an entertaining way.
I have to say that I think that diner scene with you and Bruce Willis is an instant classic.
Oh,
and
thanks.
I think a lot of people will agree with that. And it's like this outward manifestation of an inward dialogue we all have with our younger self, where we just want to yell at them. Mm-hmm. Does it strike you that way? And also, how surreal was that?
It is sort of surreal, and you're right, and that's kind of the crux of the movie, is what would it be like to actually be face-to-face with your own self, your future self, or your past self, and that can't happen in real life, and that's where the beauty of science fiction comes in, and the device of time travel, and it's a really clever use of those things, and yeah, it's not a movie that's about time travel. It's not like one of those sci-fi movies that's about all the shiny sci-fi toys. It's a movie about this pretty substantial question. It uses the genre in order to get at that question.
Just really quickly, I love Ryan Johnson's films because they're so enjoyable to watch, but you can engage with them on multiple levels if you want to. How would you recommend Looper to AMC audiences?
I would say, just like what you're saying, if you want a movie that on the one hand will entertain you and give you the exhilaration of a banging action flick, but on the other hand, we'll give you something to think about if you want to, something to chew on, and something to talk about when you're leaving the cinema. This is one of those movies.
Thank you so much. We love the movie.
Appreciate it.
And we are back. Don't forget, Looper opens in AMC theaters everywhere this weekend. You can get your tickets right now. Go to amctheaters.com, and you can buy your tickets online for Looper right now. Trust me, you will not regret it.
Do it.
Hey, listen, every week, one of the things we like to do here on this show is we give you a chance to email us questions that you'd like to have us address on the show. You can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. So send those to us. We get a whole bunch in. We pick out a few of the best ones, and we ask them on air. So Camden has a few of them selected out at the back. So
Quite
Camden,
a few.
what do we got in the
We
mailbag?
have a large mailbag today.
There you
Our
go.
first
Love it.
email is from Azam, and Let's see. Huge fan of the show. It just keeps getting better. Yay.
Ooh.
That's good. But my question is this. Would you like to see a very different out of left field director take on a superhero film or video game adaptation, like I've joked around with the concept with Seth MacFarlane, to take on Deadpool, or a guy like David Fincher or David Ayer to take on Punisher, or even Neil Blomkamp take on Metal Gear Solid?
Yes.
Yes. Always.
Neil Blomkamp, District 9 was awesome.
Yeah.
And David Fincher would put such a cool, freaky twist on, like, a comic book. I think that'd be rad.
And Deadpool was directed by Seth MacFarlane doing that'd be crazy.
That'd be really interesting.
I don't know that we're sure that Seth MacFarlane can do anything except be funny and make like a solid movie.
Because we love Ted.
We love Ted.
Which
we love
was
Family Guy.
Ted and Family Guy. Same thing.
Same thing.
Exact same humor, exact same.
He should branch out. It'd be interesting.
Super solid. Like Ted, I thought was one of the best comedies of the year.
Loved
it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I want to see something else from him before I think we give him a big responsibility of going with a superhero.
Yeah.
But it's a good suggestion, and I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
We need more. Like, we need to mix this stuff more.
Well, I think
unfortunately
it has been.
it's a business.
I think it has been. I think we have seen some shockers. Because I'm sorry, who on earth? If anybody tells me, yeah, I predicted Sir Kenneth Branagh was going to direct Thor.
Yeah.
Liar. Nobody saw
and
that
I loved
coming.
it.
That's true.
And it was awesome.
Yeah,
I think talking about the Wolverine, I think James Mangold. I think what? The 310 to Yuma director? Like what?
Right.
Seriously?
I liked that.
The
movie a
Kate
lot.
and Leopold director? Well, I mean.
Well, I didn't like Kate and Leopold, but 310 to Yuma.
But I mean, I think we have seen some real shockers. And I think, and remember, I think
It's
at the
always
time,
good.
a lot of guys were very shocked at Christopher Nolan when they said he was going to do Batman Begins.
I never had a doubt.
Guillermo del Toro doing Hellboy was really good.
Well, yeah. So I think this does happen because comic book movies, since, once again, Bryan Singer resurrected the comic book genre, I think we're now in an age where, and we talked about this when we were discussing Ben Affleck maybe doing Justice League, is the fact that we are now in an era where doing a comic book film, especially after Avengers and the Dark Knight stuff, it is a sought after thing.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
You cannot, now you can make comic book films that aren't just stupid. You can make comic book films that are fun and good and quality
and A talent.
And have huge financial success and attract A-list talent. It's a different world now. So I don't think, Seth MacFarlane would be way off the charts because I don't know that he can direct anything
Fincher
other
would
than
be
his
cool,
own stuff.
though. I'd really like to see that. I love David Fincher.
And this is why we all should hang our heads in shame at Hollywood saying no to Joe Carnahan's Daredevil, man. Joe Carnahan would have done a kick-ass
Maybe.
version.
I mean, I remember.
And Affleck
maybe,
with Justice
definitely.
League. I really wanted to see that.
With Ben Affleck, you
Yeah.
mean? Oh, I was desperately.
would've
But that was
really
him
liked to see
turning
that.
it down.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, remember, they didn't turn down Carnahan. They weren't able to make the movie at all.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Messy.
Yeah, it was. They couldn't make it go into production in time, and therefore they lost. Now they don't even have the rights to it. Now Marvel has the rights to
Turn back
Daredevil.
over.
Damn those lawyers.
Marvel was
Damn
very,
them.
very clever with how they wrote everything
Yes.
into
Come
that.
on, Marvel. Be nice to the guy that directed Narc. That's a good movie.
Narc is a good movie.
Now, when we're talking about guys like Neil Blomkamp, I mean, that's not. I don't think Neil Blomkamp's a stretch because he kind of already does comic book feel kind of movies. So I don't really see that as a stretch.
No.
But we're in a day and age now where, unless you're going, before it used to be considered a stretch by going up the quality ladder. Now it would only be considered a stretch if you go down the quality ladder. Like, let's get, who's the guy I'm thinking of? Let's get Uwe Boll. Yes,
oh boy.
Let's get Uwe Boll to direct the next X-Men. I mean, that would be a stretch.
Whoa.
But
Let's
other than
have Catherine Bigelow direct.
Yeah.
That'd be
See,
sweet.
but the thing is, I could see that
I
happening.
could too.
To
I'd
me,
love
it's not a
that.
stretch.
Let's do it.
All right, let's move on. What else we got in
Catherine
the mailbag?
Bigelow doing Wonder Woman. Ooh.
Oh.
You're welcome, world.
Our next email
our
is from Black
recommendations.
Bono, which is a cool name.
I love that name.
Black Bono.
Very cool name.
Boom.
Do you have a favorite independent film that you would recommend to movie fans out there?
That is a very broad question.
Yes.
And awesome.
One more question. Why are so many movies going straight to DVD? There are some movies that I saw that should have gone to theater, like Lockout.
Oh, well,
Lockout
first
was
of
in
all,
the theater.
Lockout was in theater.
You just missed it.
It wasn't there long.
limited release.
I had fun with. I know a lot of people didn't like Lockout. I personally had some fun with it.
I didn't. It was pretty. I mean, Guy Pearce is always great, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't as fun as it could have been.
It's a great example of okay, the movie was all right, but I would see 10 movies of that character done better. I loved his character. Was Snow was the name of the character in Lockout.
Yep.
And you know, I don't think there's a greater percentage of movies going straight to DVD now or home video or stream whatever than there were in the past. I think I think we see in general a lot more feature films being produced, both in theatrically and I think the ratio is probably the same.
You think? Because I feel like there are plenty because they're being made by smaller independent folks, and that they're ending up getting publicity on the release.
Right.
And
well,
so
the question is like, why do we see these happening? If there are more, and there are more channels. So we're talking about Netflix. We're talking about different streaming options and things like that. So why
the changing landscape of cinema?
The why is simple. It really is. And I have people argue and scream and spit at me when I say this.
Good God.
Spitting.
But I'm going to lay the truth down. The reason a film goes straight to DVD or home video is for one of two reasons. Number one, the movie is bad, and it's not good enough to put in theater. Or number two, for whatever reason, it is simply not a marketable film. In other words, it's a film that cannot make money. There's no way the film can make money. If a film is good, and if a studio believes it can make money, it will go into theater. It will.
Yeah. Sometimes they make bad calls. I'm going to.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
It's a shame when it happens. There's a movie that came out only on DVD called Aggression Scale that was dope. That movie was dope. I couldn't believe it because a friend of mine worked on it and he brought it over and I was like ready to be polite and just be like, "Oh, this movie's so good," and then when he leaves, be like, "Wow, I wanted to kill myself," but. It was not the case, and I was so depressed for those filmmakers that couldn't get distribution for some reason and had to choose this route because, as it is, nobody knows about that movie, and it was awesome. It's definitely more awesome than a ton of stuff I've seen in the theater.
Right. And
so sad.
I think there's definitely exceptions to the rule. Actually, the film I'm about to bring up is an exception to the rule. The first part of the question is, do you have a favorite independent film that you would recommend? Mine, I went to the Toronto After Dark Film Festival a bunch of years ago.
Yeah.
And the very first film I ever saw there was this amazing film called Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. It is, forget Scream, that garbage, the whole deconstruction of the horror genre while kind of poking fun at it.
The first one was clever.
Hold on a second. And I liked the first Scream, I did, but garbage compared to Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. This is a movie that really breaks down and deconstructs the whole horror genre, has incredible fun with it, is extremely funny, and then 3/4 of the way through the film, it completely switches gear. Even from a cinematic point of view, the look of the film changes and they go into horror film mode for the last quarter of the film. And up to that point, it's about this guy named Leslie Vernon. And first of all, it imagines the world that Freddy, Michael, and Jason were real mass killers, and they really existed.
Love it already.
Their supernatural killers are real.
Love it.
And this student documentary crew find out about this guy who's training to become the next supernatural mass murderer, and his name is Leslie Vernon.
Clever.
And it follows him. The first 3/4 of the film was him following him in his training and his planning stages and about what's important when you go on your murder spree and why evil is important.
Is it funny?
It's hilarious.
Awesome.
And then you get some great cameos. I cannot remember the actress's name, but the woman from, not The Exorcism, from Poltergeist, the short woman who talks like this.
Sure.
And then and Robert Englund appears in the film as well.
Awesome.
Nice.
It's just, it's a hilarious film. It's clever. It's smart. They have a Kickstarter project currently going right now to get a sequel made, which I would.
Did you
love.
contribute?
I did contribute.
Good
as a
for
matter
you.
of fact. I
Way to support.
$20.
Hey-o.
Money bags
But
over there.
there's an example of a film that, hey, you know what? I think this was a quality film. I think you could have put it. I think Anchor Bay ultimately picked it up and distributed it for home video. But I think you could have put this in theater and word of mouth. I think you could have made $15 million with it on a sub $1 million movie.
I just don't understand. It's sometimes the business side of this just makes my head hurt.
Yeah.
But a favorite independent film like Hedwig and the Angry Inch is an independent film technically, and that's one that I've never forgotten.
I love that you went there.
I didn't know what it was. I just literally saw an ad in the paper with Hedwig's face on it. That was it. And I called my friend and I was like, dude, I don't know what this thing is, but I feel like we have to go.
I gotta ask Dennis, I know you watch an awful lot of them, but is there any like film that you can think of that you saw just on home video or stream that didn't get a big theatrical release that you think probably deserved to get the big theatrical release?
Not off the top of my head. Not. I don't know if I didn't see these movies in the theater. I saw them on and these are foreign films. The two movies that I absolutely love are City of God. Did that ever get
City of God.
That's a great
That
movie.
never got a wide release, did it?
No,
That never got a
limited.
wide theatrical treatment,
and
did it?
a movie called A Prophet, which was
Yeah, which also did not get a wide theatrical release. I think those
so.
count.
I really loved We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
a
that
great
movie was terrifying and interesting. Tilda Swinton, phenomenal performance.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly's in it. I loved that. And
The
recently,
kid was really good,
The
too.
kid was
Yeah.
fantastic
The
and
kid-
scary.
And the older teenage kid now in Perks of Being a Wallflower.
I think I'd say Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Recreation.
The big kid.
He's Ron Swanson's illegitimate love child. No, he's one of the kids in Perks, and that Perks of Being a Wallflower is an indie movie that's in theaters now. That was so good.
Emma
You
Watson
should see
is
it.
a
All right, we got to
face.
keep moving here. What else we got in the
Keep moving.
mailbag?
Next mailbag is from Jeff from New Jersey.
What's
Thank
up,
you for having
Jersey?
a totally awesome show that's dedicated to movie buffs and comic geeks like me.
Yay.
That is our audience. I know that you're not overly fond of adding more members to the Avengers in the movies, but I do think that they need a second female member. Would you like to see Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, known as Captain Marvel, appear in Avengers 2? Also, do you see Disney, Marvel, and Sony ever working out a deal that will allow Spider-Man to join the MCU?
And by the MCU, for those of you who don't know, Marvel Cinematic Universe is what that's just what people call it now, the MCU. No, I
Has
don't.
its own abbreviation.
I don't like the idea of adding more members to the Avengers. The concept, though, could the Avengers use a second female character?
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably could. Should that be Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel? No, it shouldn't be
agree.
Miss Marvel. It's tough to go down the Marvel roster that they have the movie rights for, that they could throw in there. I mean, there's several X-Men characters come to mind who have served in the Avengers in the comic book world, but they belong to the X-Men movie universe and therefore belong to Fox and can't be used. So I gotta admit, I can't think of any off the top of my head who I would put. My first choice is leave the roster as
Yeah.
it is. That's my first choice.
Maybe give Pepper a little more screen time.
But I mean, if you're going to add another Marvel, if you must add another member to the Avengers, I would say make it a female character. I'm just at a stretch right now to
Black
figure who
Widow
that
held
character.
it down. You know?
She did well.
Yeah.
I get some more, get like one more pair of boobs, just one more pair.
Never
Yeah.
hurts, you know?
But I just
Yeah.
don't know who you could do.
I'm drawing a complete blank on
Me
that.
too.
Yeah. So in the
think of a lot
chat
more
board,
men.
Ken, keep an eye on this. In the chat board,
you do.
if you can think of some
Just
good
give me Chris
Marvel
Hemsworth, I'm in.
that aren't in the X-Men universe and aren't in the Spider-Man universe and aren't in the Fantastic Four universe that Marvel could use in Avengers, throw them in there. And I'll ask
Yeah.
Candon in a minute to bring those up. As far as the
Right.
second part of your question,
Yeah, Spider-Man.
could we ever really see Marvel and Sony make a deal
Always
where we could
leaking
see
out.
Spider-Man show up in further Marvel Cinematic Universe, i.e. Avengers films? Not a chance in hell.
And let's not.
It's not going to happen. It's just not. Look, theoretically, could you? Sure, but it doesn't make sense for Marvel because once you attach, if they do a deal with Sony to bring in Spider-Man, first of all, how much you got to pay for those rights? Secondly, now you have forever tied yourself to that deal with Sony. And that's just not something Marvel wants to do. It makes no business sense whatsoever. As a fan, would I like to see it? Sure. Would I love Sony to lose the rights and Marvel to get them and to use Spider-Man in their cinematic universe?
That's the
Absolutely.
dream. Give
But it's
Marvel to Marvel.
not going to happen, folks. The only chance it had was for the most recent The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield to have completely bombed. If that happened, maybe there would have been a chance that Sony might have been willing to part ways with the character. But it made a fortune.
And
Right.
Webb did a great job, so
Yeah.
let's leave Spider-Man where
and
he
so
is.
it's not going to happen.
Right.
Sorry. What's next?
What's next? Mark G. Why is it that directors get blamed for poor movies more than the screenwriter? For instance, look at Transformers 2 or Terminator Salvation. It doesn't matter who the directors are, they still have to work with whatever script is presented to them. While it matters who the Justice League director will be, the quality of the script is more important. What do you guys think, script or director?
Well, directing is the sexy job. Directing is the one that we always talk about. I think people that actually understand the movie making process are more than willing to look at the screenwriters. We've had that conversation on shows before. But directing is the sexy profession, and that's the one that kind of, directed by Michael Bay.
Right.
And
some-
Transformers 2?
And guess what? Some directors bring it on themselves. because like he has just the personality of a bulldozer. And so I think he really puts himself out there a lot to fall under criticism, because they're like, oh, well, you talk such a big game and your movie was lame. Boo.
And it does go the other way too, because like for Prometheus, for example, people are blaming Lindelof, like much more than Scott. So I mean, it does go both ways sometimes, but a director brings the visual story to life. So him choosing this shot over this shot, I mean, it's definitely the combination of the two, but it's the sexy job.
Digging even deeper, though, it's kind of not even the screenwriter, because there's a producer that's had that property and the rights to that property for a long time, and they found someone that either has already written or they wanted to write their property, and they're the ones that nobody knows their name, but they're the one that accepts the Best Picture Oscar. It's their picture. Boom. So it's really their fault. Let's point fingers at the producers. By the way, your guild is ridiculous. Everybody's a producer.
Okay, so I think, Amy Rose, I'm not sure if you have. I know, Gray, you and I have both been involved in filmmaking before.
Yes.
Amy Rose, I think you've done some stuff.
Very amateur.
All right, so with the statement of the screenwriter is more important, no, it's not. It comes down, the bottom line is the director, the guy sitting in the chair. There's a lot of blame to go around, from the producers to the writers to everybody else who has it. There's a lot of blame to go around. But the bottom line guy is the director. My favorite analogy in all this is there's this silly, I don't know why I watch it. I really don't, but I do. There's a silly little show on the Food Network called, what's the name where they get the mystery basket and they have to make a meal out of it?
Chopped?
Like
Chopped. There's a little thing called Chopped, right? Where they get these 3 chefs, right? They get 3 or 4 chefs, and they get handed a mystery basket, and they all have the same ridiculous ingredients in them, stupid ingredients, and then they have to make a great meal out of it. I liken this unto the whole situation of a screenwriter to director. Now, clearly, with a chef, the better ingredients you're handed, the better the meal will be. But you're still the chef. You get handed what you're handed. Make something out of it. Make something good out of it. You have the authority, in most cases, certainly not all, but in many cases as the director, you have the authority, make some changes to the script, change the pacing, do this, do that, do whatever. It is a poor workman that blames his tools. At the end of the day, look, the better the script, the better the potential of the movie will be, absolutely. I think besides the director, the next most important thing is screenwriter. Maybe even it's close. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, the bottom line guy, the guy most responsible for putting that film together, is the guy sitting in the director's chair. And maybe he's handed a basket full of crap ingredients. He's still the guy who has to put a good meal on the table. And you can.
Yeah.
It's harder. It's much harder with a bad script.
Yeah, right.
But that's just the way I see it.
And we are paying attention to the writing. Like, I'm a writer. I pay attention. Some movies are still good with bad writing. I mean, it works both ways as well. Because visually it's stunning. It really does. So we're paying attention to all elements.
Avatar.
Yeah? Yeah.
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 Sorry, not
you
the world's most...
You mean Ferngully, The Last Rainforest?
Not
I do.
a good script at all.
I also
No.
mean...
Ferngully.
I love Ferngully.
I also mean Ernest Goes to Camp.
All right, what else do we got in the
one
mailbag?
more. We got one more from York. York M says I love the show. Awesome. I like.
We
those
love
little,
you.
I like those little comments before they ask their questions. Makes me feel happy.
That's what we just choose all those ones.
My question is, do you think they will do a mini Avengers with the upcoming Venom
Like with
movie?
babies?
I don't know what that means with children.
Sorry, can you read that again?
Yeah, my question is, do you think they will do a mini Avengers with the upcoming Venom movie? I would love to see a Venom movie and then see a sequel to the Amazing Spider-Man.
Like midget
movie.
Avengers? Like what are we talking about?
I think I understand what they're asking. No, I think what they're asking is...
Baby Avengers.
As in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they started with these one-shot movies and then led up to something bigger. It sounds to me like he's alluding to, there have been talk about them doing a straight-up Venom movie about Venom, then maybe do 1 or 2 other single-shot characters and then bringing them together in the next Amazing Spider-Man film. And do so kind of like an Avengers, the way the Avengers did. I think that's what the York meant. No, I don't see that happening.
That doesn't
and
seem
I don't
to
see
be,
Venom happening either. I
That
don't think
doesn't seem to be
happen.
anyone else's strategy except Marvel.
And they're killing it.
Except Marvel in the Avengers universe. Like, they specifically have used their evil mastermind powers to, basically lure us into loving the Avengers. Like, they gambled so much on this Avengers movie. You know, I mean, they were like, we're going to make these movies, and it does not matter if they are good or not, but they're going to be enough that everybody's going to want to see Avengers. And then, thank God, somebody had the idea to involve Joss Whedon, and it was a home run.
Yeah.
Whatever a home run could be if you hit the ball from Earth to, like, Pluto is what he did.
Right.
And a universe run. And so but nobody else seems to be doing it that way. So,
I see. We actually discussed this on the last episode, and as much as I said, okay, the quality of the individual movie, bottom line is the guy and the director. Absolutely, absolutely. Avengers is a little something different, because Avengers is the culmination of 3 or 4 years and about 4 other films leading up to it, right?
We invested a lot.
Yeah,
We did.
exactly.
We sure did.
I
did.
honestly, we did.
Not them,
Us.
Now, as far as credit goes, look, all credit in the world, Joss Whedon, absolutely. I love what he did with Avengers. But the guy responsible for not only how good the Avengers was, but for how
like
good
we
the
need a drum
entire,
roll.
the whole MCU is, the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe is Kevin Feige, who has single-handedly shepherded this giant plan and stage by stage brought them through this whole plan. They stuck to their course, and it paid off in the end.
And
it
then
was because
some.
every film, except for maybe with the possible exception of Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2, my bad. Iron Man 2, Iron Man, fantastic. Captain America, fantastic. Thor, fantastic. And I don't care what anybody says. The last Hulk film, wonderful. I love the last Hulk film.
with Edward Norton?
With me! But yes,
You were in that?
Wait, what?
I'm actually I'm an extra in 3 scenes in the last.
Oh, no,
Incredible
you're
Hulk.
not.
I am. They filmed it in my
gonna
hometown.
watch this.
Prejudiced so-and-so.
Maybe prejudiced, but I did. I remember coming out and saying, I thought that was a really fun film. It was really good. Did it have its problems? Absolutely. But I mean, Marvel
Ruffalo is so
has
much better,
done,
though. So much
Feige
better.
has done everything right with this Marvel universe. Everything right, which I think has a lot to do with the success of Avengers. And of course, bringing on Joss Whedon may have been his crown-achieving decision.
Yeah.
But
Well played.
but I remember, and I didn't even like the decision. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Joss Whedon. I'm like,
You were
okay, yeah,
skeptical?
cool.
Everybody, yeah.
I would have rather seen Kenneth Branagh direct it at the time. I would have rather seen Jon Favreau direct it at the time. Now hindsight is like, well,
Crushed it.
clearly
Yeah.
Feige made the right decision.
Well, can we just for a
Smart
second
man.
though explore the possibility of a baby Avengers? Because like think about that little Hawkeye with a little baby arrow.
I'm
like,
just
where
picturing
did they
Muppet
come
babies
from
in my
and
head
their whole
right now.
backstory,
Right? It's like I want to.
baby.
Oh, I want to see Black Widow's parents and see how proud they are of
Yeah,
her
in
wearing
Russia.
leopard.
Yeah.
I mean leather, skin tight.
What about Silver Surfer having
She
his
has
own
done good
movie?
for herself.
Where he fights Galactus
Never happened.
and goes home.
It'll never
home
happen,
planet.
unfortunately.
Yeah, rumors.
Yeah, no one's. We're never going to see that film, unfortunately.
That's sad.
Well, never's a long time, so maybe I won't see never. Not within the next 5 to 10 years. But anyway, that'll do it for our mailbag. Don't forget, guys, email us your questions for the next show. Just email us to amcmovietalk@gmail.com, and maybe we'll get your question on our next show. For now, we're just going to end off the show. We're going to take a couple of questions or thoughts from the chat board going on the live part of it. So, Cannon, what do we got? Is there anything interesting in the
Well,
chat
real
board?
quick, the chat roll mentioned 2 female characters, the Wasp and Mockingbird,
Oh,
Ooh.
Wasp is actually
Well
very.
done.
as
Wasp
female
is tangible.
characters for the Avengers.
Who's that?
As female characters.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wasp is
Well
actually
done, chat board.
very
Yeah.
Yes.
likely. I think that's even likely that we'll see that.
All
With the
right.
all this talk of Ant-Man and everything, then I think Wasp becomes
Ant-Man.
a very, I hope they ditch that.
Yeah.
Even though I love Edgar Wright, I'd
Yeah.
rather see him do something else. Anyway, what else
Is
we
her
got?
weakness smoke?
You.
Wasn't sure where that comment was coming from. Okay, let's see.
That's all that calms them
John,
down.
this is for you. How can you continue with X-Men 4 when everybody was killed in X-Men 3?
I think the fact that so many were killed
Everyone.
gives you a much nicer, cleaner slate.
They
I mean, in fact,
transformed it.
look, you go X-Men 4, you have Professor Xavier. The one redeeming thing about X-Men 3, I think, was Kelsey Grammer as Beast.
He was great.
That
He
was,
was
I think,
great.
the
He was
one
great.
redeeming thing. So you got
The one.
Patrick Stewart, you got Beast, you got Wolverine. Yes, there were still a couple of other characters that were still kicking around too. I think, and then you have a bit of a clean slate. You got rid of a lot of the garbage. Look, I love I forget the actor's name off the top of my head. He was just in, not Bridesmaids, Bachelorette. He was just in Bachelorette. He played Cyclops in the X-Men movies. Marsden.
Oh, yeah.
James
Marsden. Yeah.
I love James Marsden, but
I did not like
that
him
was
as
not a
Cyclops.
well done character.
Awful.
The Cyclops character in those films, even as good as the first two films were, not a well done character.
Such a nice
so
chin.
you
Jean Grey
brush
was
him out of the way.
okay.
Jean Grey was all right.
Yeah.
Famke Janssen was good.
But I think
She's
you've
awesome.
got stuff there that you can move forward. Now add one or two new characters to replace some of the dead ones. I'd like to see Colossus take a bigger role
Yeah.
in those films and move forward and create stories going forward. I think they have the possibility to do that. I don't think they will.
So
but
officially, people dying en masse in the X-Men series is great.
was a
Yeah.
good thing.
Way to go,
It's
Morbid.
actually a good thing.
Good thing.
Okay, so going back to the Avengers, who would you cast as the Wasp?
Oh,
As
man.
Wasp,
The chat roll is saying Eva Longoria was rumored.
oh, you know
Oh,
what? Yeah, that's not
wow.
happening. But that's a good name.
That's hot.
Piper Parabo is who I would put in there.
Huh.
I would put Piper Parabo as well.
I like that. She's
I like
ethnically
her.
vague.
Yes, she is, and
I like
she's
that.
gorgeous beyond. I think
Am
she's the
I
cutest woman in Hollywood.
No.
Absolute cutest woman in Hollywood.
And
are.
she's great in Looper.
And she's naked in Looper.
Well, there
Which
you go.
I'm not-
She's
She
great
should
then,
be
She's great in
obviously.
Looper.
Buying
yes.
tickets for at AMC Theater.
What else we got?
Let's see if we have anything interesting. AMC crew, Warner should focus on Batman Superman movie instead of a Justice League movie? Yes or no?
Let's start with you.
Well, I mean, they're already over it. I mean, the Batman there is up in the air. I'm sure that they know that the cash cow is there, so that's like on
Yeah.
the back burner. But I mean, Superman is happening, so I would say I say Justice League because I just like it when there are like tons of superheroes in
Yeah.
something. I mean, I don't think that that's an automatic slam dunk
No.
because if it was like the Gary Marshall school of superhero movies, that would be terrible, where you just put all of them in one movie and just assume that's what makes it good. Not true.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gary.
It doesn't always work, but I mean, seeing what we did see with Avengers with all your favorites in front of your eyes, I'd love to see the same with Justice League.
Yeah, it would be dope.
And there's this misconception about, there's this thought, okay, well, if Warner is focusing on one thing, then they can't focus on another thing. Look, these movie studios are huge
Yeah, of course.
corporations. They have lots of people working for them. They can have like 7, 8, 9 film projects in production at the same time. So when you say they should focus on this instead of putting their focus on this, well, they have different directors, different producers, different writers, different on their own individual projects. So each one is getting its own individual attention.
Right.
So it's not like it's one over the other. The bigger question is, forget paying attention to. Should they just stick with Superman and Batman and just realize we can't make any of these other DC
Let's let
characters
Batman
work?
chill for a minute. I mean, Nolan did such an incredible job.
They're not
It
going
was
to
a
let him
huge
chill for a
success.
minute.
For a minute. For a minute. Like, you know,
I'm sorry, what's
2
that?
years.
I couldn't hear you over the cha-ching noise.
There's so many other good DC characters to investigate.
That they have just not been able to
I
make work.
know, but I mean, Superman will be very telling, obviously, because there's a lot of really good buzz around it, and Nolan did have a touch in that. So, yeah. So we will see.
Look,
But I want to see Justice League.
I'm super stoked for Justice League. I am. I do want to see it, whatever. But
Cha-ching, there it is again.
if I'm the president or CEO of Warner Brothers right now, I'm like,
know.
yes, Justice League is down the road, but we are going to build right now, Avengers style. We are going to
Oh, yeah.
build
It's
in
happening.
a smaller form. We are going to build to a Superman versus Batman movie.
Yes.
That's what we're
And I am
working
dying to
towards.
see that
Oh,
too.
my
So let's be
God.
real.
I-
Look at Transformers 4. I mean, when the money, it's just going to keep going.
I almost fell off my chair at the very thought of that movie.
Superman versus Batman.
Yeah.
It's
I wish we could get Bale,
it's some
but
of the
it's not
best
happening.
stuff I've ever read in
Listen,
comics.
it's the classic question. Imagine years ago, standing in front of the Chinese theater, I got to see Batman sexually harassing Marilyn, and I'm talking about the characters that dress up there.
the guys who dress in costumes.
And then
there.
so Batman sexually harassing her. Superman steps in and says, "Dude, not cool." And they get in a fist fight in front of Grauman's Chinese theater. It was the most stunning thing I'd
You're
ever
like,
seen.
I want this.
Where nobody was helping anybody. All the tourists were just like. And then finally, like, everyone was so upset and everyone was getting so agitated just to see who would win that SpongeBob SquarePants just started hugging people, like, just to make things okay again. It was amazing.
Gotta love Hollywood.
Finally, a
All
security
right.
guard.
Well,
broke
listen.
them up.
Unfortunately, we are way out of time. We are over time here. So, folks, for those of you who are watching us live, thank you so much for taking time to tune in and watch us live. That'll do it for us. Listen, folks, don't forget. This Monday, that's the next show on October 1st, a very special edition of AMC Movie Talk, as we have Ethan Hawke coming in to talk about his new film Sinister right here in Studio Live, and he'll be taking your questions live, by the way. So make sure you join us. You can ask him your questions live. It's going to be a lot of fun. As always, I would like to thank my co-host for this episode, the very lovely Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach.
Thank you very much.
the just as very lovely Miss Gray Drake.
Thank you, thank you.
Ken and Jackson sitting back there,
Yeah.
attentively watching
Woo.
you guys on the chat board. And of course, the man who makes everything run over here, Mr. Denizen, our production supervisor. And thank you to you guys so much for taking time to join us and watch us. Hey, folks, don't forget, you can get your movie times, theater, movie information, and buy your movie tickets 24/7 by visiting us at amctheaters.com. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And please, by all means, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Well, folks, that'll do it for this episode of AMC Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us on Monday. And until then, my name's John Campia. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and join us at amctheaters.com and watch one of our other AMC Movie News videos below.